All right, so that wraps up those free agents. Moving on to how it actually impacts our fantasy teams. I mean, we went over briefly what it means for each player, but Hopkins, I wrote down that it impacts Tommy, Scotty, and Timmy. From Tommy's standpoint, I think DeAndre takes a regression, not digression.
Yikes.
But it's going to be more efficient production from his standpoint. From Scotty's standpoint, it's a hit for Christian Kirk. You know, everybody thought that he was going to take that leap, but I mean,
it's a shame too because Christian Kirk is Scotty's best player
outside of Devontae Adams.
He just tried to trade him to me, so that's weird.
Yeah, I mean, I've been saying it for years that Christian Kirk will never be the number one wide receiver on the team, but I digress.
Treating corona patients and he's fucking trying to trade Christian Kirk.
And then for Timmy, I think this is a great upgrade for Kyler Murray. I don't think he's going to have the second-year leap like we've seen out of Patrick Mahomes and then Lamar Miller over the past 2 seasons, but I think a top 5 fantasy season out of Kyler Murray is definitely in the cards. No pun intended.
Oof. Yeah, that feels way high to me. Yeah, I'm going to take that board bet.
You want that?
I'll take, yeah.
Done. Did you realize that he was a top 7 quarterback last year?
Don't care.
Okay. I'll take that.
No, but so you're saying I have Kyler Murray 6 or worse, right?
Correct.
Perfect.
Okay. Nick with DJ, do we think it's any good for next team?
Hold on.
Oh, that's right. You guys didn't have anything to say, but
You're going to fucking hijack the segment? Jesus Christ.
Oh, this is coming from the guy that always hijacks each segment, but go on.
Guys, everybody relax. I give the people what they want, Jay. What about Will Fuller? I know he can't stay healthy. He's never going to stay healthy, but it's got to help him when he's on the field, right? To not have Hopkins?
No, I don't think it helps him.
Hurts him. I don't know. Will Fuller catches everything. He's not a number 1 guy.
Now you're gonna have number 1 corners on him. He's not gonna get the targets.
He's from Notre Dame, dude. We get it.
Yeah. Congrats, man.
Law of averages says that dude has to stay healthy one time, and if that's this year, I think it's a big year for Fuller.
When you say big year, how big?
Meaning he plays for 8 games? No, I think he plays 12 games, and I think he finishes inside the top 19.
Board bet?
Sure, I'll give you $25.
Done. All right, Brian. Anything else for those teams?
No, I think we handled it. I mean, I'm a PTQT guy. I have to be, but that's about it.
Yeah, that guy's a wet rag. What about
just like Will Fuller?
Nick and DJ? You think that helps, hurts, stays the same?
Nick has a plethora of running backs, and that only helps him. I think. I mean, I don't know. How old is David Johnson? I mean, I feel like 28.
Yeah, I think he's 28.
I don't know. Older than he should be. It helps Nick just for the sake of all the targets that he's going to receive. You know, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm a big David Johnson fan.
Well, it's better than him backing up Kenyon Drake, like what he was doing at the end of last year. So it only helps him out.
And Lamar Miller produced there. I mean, obviously not last year. David Johnson did look really bad when he got the ball last year, though.
He did. I'll agree. I'm a big DJ fan, but he looked bad.
Terrible.
He did look bad. But there's no one else there. Could they draft a running back? They could. But Bill O'Brien, I think he's going to somehow fuck that up. All right, so what about Brady and how it affects Shono, because he has Brady, Kevin, since he has Mike Evans, and then Brian, since he has Chris Godwin?
I think it hurts me and Kevin. I think Sean, I don't know. Like you said, Brady is old. I think he can still get it done. I hate him. But yeah, it's got to hurt. I mean, Jameis just was whipping the rock around. Like, obviously didn't care who he's passing to, so it hurts Godwin. It hurts me and Kev, I think, production-wise.
I think it hurts Edelman the most. Who has Edelman, Jay?
That's Sean.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think that hurts Edelman. Nobody else is going to throw it to that dude as much. Be on the same page with him. I think it's listen, Godwin's still a beast. Evans is still a beast. I think it's a slight downgrade to those guys. Maybe a little bit more than that. Maybe a moderate downgrade. And what I do think it does is maybe open up. Maybe Stidham is a fantasy relevant guy because Sony Michel sucks. James White's probably still there. I don't know. I think it shakes it up to a point where it's worth looking at.
Yeah, I don't think it's good news for all the guys, all the teams, to be honest. I mean, Shauno gets hurt more so because of what you said about Edelman. I think Brady actually gets a slight upgrade because he actually has more weapons to go to. But I don't think it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be a top 5. It's just like what I said before. I think you'd be top 12, and then with Kevin and Brian having Evans and Godwin, they're not going to have 2 wide receivers that are top 6 fantasy wide receivers. I think maybe Godwin is a wide receiver 2, so maybe 13 to 17, and I think Evans is still going to be a top 10 kind of guy, but still that's a downgrade, obviously, for both of those guys. Diggs going to the Bills and how that affects the Beaties because they have Diggs, me because I have John Brown, and also Timmy because he's got Adam Thielen. What do you guys think?
It's got to affect. It affects Greg's. It's got to affect Greg's finger sleeves. I don't know how, but it just has to.
All of a sudden, Diggs just shows up. He's wearing finger gloves.
Oh, I hope so.
But I think Diggs leaving Minnesota probably hurts Thielen. I would think. I think his athleticism and starting to get hurt a little bit. Thielen, that's not a good thing for him. That's kind of my only take on it. I think Diggs can be the same player that he's been, which is like whatever, wide receiver 15. I don't even know, but to me, it probably hurts Thielen the most.
I think. Oh well, actually, another player that I didn't mention, it's Irv Smith, who's the tight end on the Vikings. Yeah, I think that actually upgrades him the most out of any one of these guys because you lose a reliable pass catcher. I think Thielen stays exactly the same, but I think Irv Smith actually gets a nice or a decent size bump with the loss of the targets.
Do they still have Rudolph?
Yeah.
I think they do, but they are another team that plays a lot of 2 tight end sets. It's very similar to what the Eagles play with Goddard and also Zach Ertz, and I think Irv Smith could easily slide into more so of the Zach Ertz role than the Dallas Goedert role. Melvin Gordon, we've already talked about how it impacts your team, Doug, but how does it impact Timmy's team since he has Melvin Gordon?
I think it's probably good, right? Gets rid of some competition. Probably a good thing for Timmy.
Agreed? Brian?
Yeah, and I guess it all depends how it works out for Melvin. I don't know.
Well,
a lot of great insights.
I mean, that's a good take for any take, I guess.
If you're taking the take, that's a good take.
Yeah, if you're gonna take a take, that's the take.
Right. No, I think he continues to be what he was when he came back to the Chargers.
Agreed, Brian. I like that take. So,
you can edit that, right?
Timmy and Scotty being affected with Rivers going to the Colts because Scotty has not only Paris Campbell but also Nyheim Hines. I actually think that this is a good thing for Nyheim Hines because Marlon Mack has never been a pass catcher in that offense, and could it be just a dumber version of Austin Eckler? I think that could be easily possible.
Scotty probably also has like the other Colts pass catchers. Pascal, Jack Doyle. He's probably got them.
Probably got them all. What about Ty though? You think this is good, bad? How does it help out Timmy's team?
It's got to be better than Jacoby, no? I don't know. Yeah, I just don't know. I think it stays the same. We'll see how you know.
Yeah, we know what your take's going to be, Brian. We'll see how it plays out.
Right.
I don't know. T.Y.'s not getting any younger either. I don't think it impacts him.
Okay. Teddy going over to the Panthers. Nick has Curtis Samuel. Timmy has DJ Moore. And the Beaties have Ian Thomas, the tight end from Carolina. How do you guys think that helps out any one of those teams?
I don't. Yeah, I mean, I said I like Teddy, but I don't know that it changes what the other guys what their output's gonna be. I think that maybe on the whole, the Panthers are a better team with Bridgewater versus Cam Newton / whatever else they were trying out there. But I think on the whole, if you average the fantasy production, it probably looks the same.
Right, like the team might be better with Teddy Bridgewater, but I don't think fantasy-wise it helps or hurts any which way. So, you know, hey, but I don't want to be redundant, but we're going to have to see how it works out.
I agree with all of your takes. I think it actually hurts Christian McCaffrey a little bit more because I don't think he's going to get as many dump-off passes because the quarterback can't find anyone to throw to. I think it helps Curtis Samuel. It helps DJ Moore. It helps Ian Thomas. And it downgrades Christian McCaffrey, where he goes from maybe the number one running back to maybe the number two. We've already gone over Nick Foles impacting both Anthony Miller and Allen Robinson. Minimal impact for both of those guys. Maybe a slight upgrade if Foles does start. Any other takes?
Nope, don't care. Nope.
Yep.
And then the last one, Manny Sanders. Tommy's got Emmanuel Sanders. Brian's got Michael Thomas. And then Timmy, why did I put him here? Oh, because of Jared Cook. Do you think it hurts any of those fantasy teams?
Well, I said it helps Michael Thomas. I also think it helps Drew Brees. I don't know who,
That's the Beaties. Yep.
Right.
Okay.
Those guys.
Probably hurts Jared Cook, right?
Yeah, I think so. All right, moving on to the draft order. We are almost in the home stretch. So the draft order. So just a reminder, this is where we all are set. So Timmy's got the number 1 pick. Scotty's got number 2, followed by Shono, the Beaties, and Tommy. That rounds out the top 5. The next one's Brian, Nick, and Doug. And then the last 2 at picks 9 and 10 are myself and then the Barretts. So also a follow-up on who has what draft picks. There was a couple trades that happened last year that involved some picks. Brian has Doug's first round pick, and Doug has Nick's second round pick.
Dante Pettis?
What's that?
Was that the Dante Pettis?
That was the Dante Pettis trade.
He was involved, yeah. But it
Fuck me right.
involved Nick as well, yeah. I traded
Fuck me.
Antonio Brown.
Yeah, you got fucked.
I'm pretty sure I gave you.
Bludgeoned.
Pretty bad.
Thanks. So I have the 6th and the 8th pick.
Correct.
Thanks, Doug.
I'm looking to move up. You like Royce Freeman?
You know I do. I mean, we're going to have to see how it works out.
I mean, the way that Doug was talking up Will Fuller, I'm surprised he's not pitching that to Timmy for the number 1 overall pick.
Hey, dude,
I'm keeping Will Fuller, dude. Come on.
All right, so now that we've gone over the draft order, let's talk about some of these incoming rookies for the draft. All right, so I listed some quarterbacks. Any of the quarterbacks that I listed, and for the viewers or for the listeners, I put down Burrow, Tua, Herbert, Love, Jalen Hurts, Eason, and Fromm. Any one of those guys.
Who's Love? the different Cal?
No, he's from Utah State.
Yeah.
He's sort of like Colin Kaepernick.
Who's Eason exactly like?
Jacob Eason is out of Washington.
Bro, do your research, dude.
Not gonna do it.
not gonna do it. No, I think that Tua could be the best quarterback in this whole crop here. I mean, I love Burrow. He had one of the best collegiate years ever, I think it was.
Easily.
But Tua,
yeah.
right? Tua with the hip deal. Obviously, somebody who gets him, they're gonna have to wait whether he goes to the Dolphins or somewhere else. But yeah, I mean, that's all I got really. Jake Fromm maybe goes to the Patriots and maybe could be their next Tom, but that's neither here nor there.
Doug?
Go ahead, Jay. No, go ahead, buddy.
I think we all know my take on Tua, just like Brian. I think he's going to be a really good player. I think if you look at what the Chargers have been doing, they've shored up the right side of their offensive line by trading for Trey Turner from the Panthers, and then also picking up Balaga from free agency. So they're shoring up their right line. Brian Balaga. Great name, but I think they're gearing up to get Tua, and if they don't go Tua, I think they go with a left tackle, and then still get one of these guys later on in the draft. I don't think anyone outside of Burrow and Tua are really going to have any sort of impact at all.
I'll disagree with you. I think Jake Fromm is pretty good. I think he's probably better than Herbert. So we'll see. I think Brian, you said maybe Fromm ends up in New England to be a good landing spot. But I think Fromm, if he had come out last year, he'd have been towards the top of the names. So I'll look for him.
Okay. Moving on to the running backs. Now, so the running backs and the wide receivers, this is what this draft is known for. This is a deep draft. If you have a first-round pick, Doug, and when it comes to some of these guys, I think these guys are going to have pretty productive careers outside of just one or two good seasons. But we'll start off with the running back position. I got Taylor from Wisconsin, DeAndre Swift, J.K. Dobbins, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, CEH for short, Cam Akers, and Zach Moss.
I think it's H, dude. I think it's Hilaire. I don't think it's an H. I think it's an E.
No, it's an H.
It's definitely Edwards-Helaire.
Yes, sir.
Look that up.
Yeah, you're gonna want to look that up.
Yeah,
there's a lot of good.
While you look that up, Doug, also look up some stats on him, by the way.
There's definitely an H. It's not bad.
Well,
Brian, do you want to start off with this one too?
That one on
yes. I'm a big fan of Jonathan Taylor. I think that he can be a workhorse back. He's fast, 4.39 40. He's at the top of my list. DeAndre Swift's right behind him. He's electric. Great hands, can catch the ball out of the backfield. J.K. Dobbins, there's a lot. Like the top, I would say there's 5 running backs who are probably, depending on where they go, can be, maybe the top 3 of this fantasy draft here, or the dynasty draft. So, J.K. Dobbins, great runner, another workhorse, I believe. Cam Akers, he's kind of my sleeper. I think that he's been on a shitty Florida State team, still managed to get 1,300 yards and 18 touchdowns last year. And Clyde the Glide, Edward Helaire. I think he rounds out the top 5 for me. Yeah, so there's some meat in that first round, and me having 6 and 8, I'm pretty excited about it.
I love how Brian was diving deep with those stats. Love it.
Mm-hmm. Hey man, I did a little bit of research.
Yeah, just.
But like I said, we gotta see how it shakes out.
It's true. I think any one of those top 5 running backs, though, no matter where they go, I think they're going to have an immediate impact. I mean, none of us thought that Alvin Kamara behind Mark Ingram and then also Adrian Peterson was going to have much of an impact his rookie year, and then all of a sudden he puts up a top 5 running back year. So I think when it comes to any team, talent's going to win out. So even if they do fall behind a guy like a David Johnson, I think any one of these guys can immediately overtake that position and step into a really, really good fantasy position. I think Jonathan Taylor is a stud. He still needs to do a little bit more when it comes to the pass catching aspect. I think he's a really, really good player, though. I think he's going to be one of the higher-end dynasty running backs. So way to go, Timmy, for having the number 1 pick. DeAndre Swift, I was really high on him before, I guess, the combine and looking over some of his tape. He's a good player. He's no Nick Chubb. He's no Todd Gurley. But I think he's a good player.
Is he Sony Michel?
I think Sony Michel was a good college running back, but he was broken parts once he came to the NFL. I think Sony Michel could have been a lot better if he didn't have all these knee issues. So I think he can be better than Sony Michel in the NFL, but I think Sony Michel was a better college running back than DeAndre Swift, if that makes sense. J.K. Dobbins, I think he's also a really, really good player. I think in the particular type of offense, he could be a workhorse if he's in, sort of like a Saints offense. I think he's going to be just like Alvin Kamara, not a workhorse, but he'll still get his touches. CEH, I was really hoping he went to a team like the Falcons. He could still go to a team like the Falcons, sit behind Gurley for a year and then step into a nice workhorse role and be exactly what Devonta Freeman was for the last 5 seasons. Cam Akers, I agree with Brian. He's a really good player. He was just on a shitty team. I think he can also be a workhorse sort of running back. And then Zach Moss, I don't really like him. I think he had really good production out of the Pac-12 playing for Utah, but I think he's just a stat collector. I think he's going to be maybe a worse version of what David Montgomery is. Doug?
I like Zach Moss. Watched a lot of Pac-12 this past year. I think Zach Moss is legit. Yeah. Full degenerate, hand up in the air.
Gambling big outs. Love it.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find a way back. Dobbins, I think Dobbins might be my favorite of the crop. I think Edwards Helaire is
He's not Jewish.
Not Helaire. He's not a lot of wear on the tires there. I think he really only played this year, so yeah, I mean definitely a good crop of backs here. But we should board bet Zach Moss because I think he's a good player.
Board bet him what?
I don't know.
What would be the board?
Yeah, go ahead, man. You're the one calling the shots right now.
500 yards in the NFL this year.
I mean, is that really worth my time?
It doesn't feel like it.
You tell me.
Fun fact, it's Randy Moss's third cousin's son, Zach Moss.
Nah, I don't. That's not even worth it.
I'm gonna go under. Well, it depends. Yeah.
550, Jet.
No, I don't think. 500 yards doesn't really make much of a difference. 500 yards, I think. Peyton Barber had less than that this year, and no one's really thrilled about Peyton Barber.
All right, 5 touchdowns.
Sky's really pumped about.
Jesus Christ. All right, fine. I'll take the 5 touchdowns. Wide receivers. Doug, did you do any research on any of these guys?
But I know who they are.
Well, that's a good start.
Yeah, I mean, Jerry Jeudy to me is the class of the field. CeeDee Lamb close behind. T. Higgins close third, and then the rest of them, Jefferson. I mean, Jefferson could be a problem, but I think the top 3 is Jeudy, Lamb, Higgins, and then, I mean, Jefferson did win the Biletnikoff, so look out. And there's also a guy you didn't list, a Domer, who I think makes an impact. Ooh.
You're talking about the guy that should be converted to a tight end?
Yeah,
Massive.
the guy who ran 4.43. Yeah, that guy. Yeah.
What's his name?
I forgot his
Chase
name.
Claypool.
Yeah, Claypool. He should be a tight end.
Bro.
Bobby Claypool.
Okay, we'll find out.
He could be just like what Darren Waller is. Darren Waller was a wide receiver. He converted to tight end, and then he blew up. But he was terrible as a wide receiver. I think Claypool should go that route, but we'll see what happens. As
4.43 ain't a tight end number, dude.
I mean,
That's quick.
Vernon Davis did that. What was Evan Ingram did that? I mean, there have been tight ends that have done that. It's a small crop, but he's better off moving to tight end than he is staying at wide receiver.
Disagree.
I think he could be serviceable either way. But CeeDee Lamb, my top guy. I watched some film. Obviously, the eye test, it passes for me. The guy's a freak. He's super, super jittery. Great tackles. Obviously, I love Jerry Jeudy as well. I think Jerry Judy's probably a better route runner, but I think CeeDee Lamb has more potential to just be a freak. I'm a big fan. T. Higgins, another guy, 6'4". He's 6'4", ran a 4.43. I mean, I'm gonna like me some of that. And then we got Ruggs.
Oh, so he ran the same number. He ran the same number as Chase Claypool.
Right. Yeah. He's.
So that means he's automatically going to be great.
That's right.
Right. Or he should be a tight end. I don't know what you're trying to refer to, dude. What do you think? But whatever. Ruggs is another freak. I mean, a lot of great Alabama wide receivers. Henry Ruggs, it reminds me of Tyreek Hill, super fast. Justin Jefferson, he's right. He's another great. The Bolitnikov, right? Thanks, Doug. He's a problem. I don't really love Rieger, but I think that at a TCU, I think that he can be, in the right situation, be a problem. I don't really love too many tiny, explosive, fast wide receivers. I don't think they produce. I like to kind of go with some taller guys. And then the Latavius Shinabolte out of Colorado. I think he had some sort of issue. I forget. He was way towards the top of the wide receiver class, and I forget exactly what his medical issue was, but he had
called a pacemaker.
Yeah, like something not good. Like, right, I think it was a heart issue. So, but he could also fall and be a problem somewhere. So yeah, there's a lot of meat on the bone for the top, let's say, 15 to 17 picks in this draft. So do your homework.
Yeah, I think I agree with Brian when it comes to CeeDee Lamb. I think he can be just like maybe a similar version of DeAndre Hopkins. He doesn't have the body control of DeAndre. He can't catch the ball as great as DeAndre, but I think they have similar play styles. But I also think CeeDee Lamb is also better in the open field than DeAndre. Jerry Jeudy, just like what Brian said, a better route runner. I just don't think he's as much of an athlete as CeeDee Lamb. He's definitely faster than CeeDee Lamb in a straight line, but I mean, how many times have we proven that just running in a straight line, Claypool, and running that fast means a lot when it comes to the NFL? But I think Jerry Jeudy is also going to be a very, very good player. T. Higgins, I think, is a better version of Mike Williams, and Mike Williams has had some really good games throughout his NFL career. He just hasn't had, an amazing career so far, but I think T. Higgins, depending upon where he falls, I think he could be a player. Henry Ruggs, he's a similar body type to, and also speed-wise, to Tyreek Hill. I just don't think he's as good of a player as Tyreek Hill. Jefferson, I think he's a faster version of Marquise Colston. I think you put him in the slot, and he can beat nickel and dime defenders left and right. You put him on the outside, going to have a little bit more difficulty, but I think he's going to be a really good player. Jalen Reagor, I think he's going to be really good. I think he's a faster version of Deebo Samuel. And Deebo, you put the ball in his hands in the open field, and now all of a sudden he's a running back. I think Jalen Reagor could also be a similar type of player. And when it comes to Laviska Shenault, he's similar to A.J. Brown, but he's like a poor man's version of A.J. Brown. But he also had a groin injury, so that's why he didn't really do all too well when it came to the combine. But I think he still does have some potential, depending upon where he ends up. And then the tight ends, I think this is a terrible tight end class. If you're looking for a tight end, I don't think this is the class that you're going to be.
Yeah,
I
you
don't-
always have Chase Claypool.
I don't think if you're looking for a dynasty tight end, I don't think this is the group. If any one of these guys, we got Doug. This is the Golden Domer. Is it Komet?
Cole.
Komet?
Yeah, Komet. Yeah. I watched him play a lot. He sucks.
Yeah. I think Thaddeus Moss though, Randy Moss's illegitimate child. I think he's actually pretty good.
Randy Moss's son with his sister.
That's how they do it in the South. And then the other three guys, well, I mean, that's still technically the South. And then the other three guys that I put here, Brian Bokum Bonaim, I don't even know who that guy is. And then Trotman, he's actually from Dayton. He might be the first player drafted from Dayton in like 30 years. I don't think these guys are anything special, to be honest.
Sounds promising.
And that wraps it up. This is a lot of content that we just delivered to your eardrums.
4 months worth of content.
Oh, right. Everyone has fucking time to listen to it. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Well,
What else are you gonna do?
And Brian notified the people that they need to just see how it plays out.
Guys, everything we said, it only matters if it plays out the right way.
If it plays out, that's right.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So anything else you guys want to wrap things up with?
No, is everybody good out there? I mean, everybody working? Like, how's this work? The whole economy is just gonna shut down.
Right, dude. We had everyone had a trip to go. We were going to Mexico, all inclusive, and shout out to Timmy and
Rest in peace. Yeah, rest in peace, Timmy and Whitley.
Fuck you, dude.
Yeah, shout out to Timmy and Whitley. That was just terrible. But
Can we reschedule that? Because I was looking forward to it.
Just give it. Yeah. Does Kevin give back the money for the?
No, he's going. He's going.
yeah, he's going with everything. Yeah.
Right. Nice.
I don't know.
It's tough times, man. Everyone stay healthy, and Jay, bring us out, dude.
All right. Agree with everything that Doug and Brian said. Everybody stay healthy out there.
Can you say commissioner one more time before we go?
Commissioner?
Commissioner.
Nice job.
He was actually pretty clean when he entered, so.
No, not bad. Not bad. He's been working on it.
I mean, I've had time. I've had months to practice, and it's still not flawless.
That's why it took so long to get this thing started. Is he had to stand in front of the mirror and say it 20 times.
Every time Jay measures a taint, he just like commissioner.
And that's how we end this. Hey, everybody, stay safe out there, and then just digest this hour-and-a-half long podcast, because in the end, it's going to help you out. So,
Don't forget to wash your hands. Goodbye.
everybody wash your hand and bow to your sensei. Take care, everyone.